You are starving. It has been 2 days. Your hunting group came back empty-handed. There are no berries left at the usual spot, and someone just ate the last of the dried roots you were saving. In front of you is a plant you have never seen before. It looks fine. It smells kind of okay. You are absolutely ravenous. Do you eat it? For about 300,000 years, this was a life or death question that every human on Earth had to answer, regularly, with no label, no warning sticker, and no one to call. And the answer they came up with is one of the most impressive things our species has ever done. It just also happens to involve a lot of people dying horribly. Here is the question we are going to answer today. How did ancient humans figure out which plants would kill them and which ones would feed them? Because somebody had to go first. Somebody always had to go first. And by the end of this video, you are going to realize that the answer involves something you do every single day and have never once thought about. Let's start with the obvious approach, because it absolutely happened. Trial and error. Someone ate a berry. If they were fine, great. Berry goes on the good list. If they were not fine, well, that also goes on a list. The problem is that this approach, charming as it sounds, has a major flaw. Some of the most deadly plants on Earth are completely delicious. Water hemlock tastes sweet. Deadly nightshade berries are described by the few people who survived eating them as almost pleasant. Nature is not playing fair, and our ancestors knew it. But here's what actually saved them, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Evolution had already given humans a secret weapon before they ever took their first bite of anything: bitter taste. Your ability to detect bitterness is not a preference. It is a survival system that your body built over millions of years specifically to keep you alive. In 2005, researchers at UCL, Duke University, and the German Institute of Human Nutrition studied a bitter taste receptor gene called TAS2R16 across 60 human populations worldwide. What they found was clear evidence of evolutionary selection. The humans whose TAS2R16 receptor was better at detecting plant toxins were more likely to survive long enough to have children. Your distaste for coffee without sugar, your weird thing about Brussels sprouts, your hatred of certain dark vegetables, that is your ancient ancestors leaving a message on your tongue that says, this might kill you. You just decided to argue with it. And we are getting to the really strange part. But first, let me tell you about 5 arrowheads that changed everything we thought we knew. In January 2026, a team of researchers published a study in Science Advances about quartz arrowheads found at Umlatuzen rock shelter in South Africa. These arrowheads were 60,000 years old, and when scientists ran advanced chemical analysis on them, they found traces of 2 highly toxic plant alkaloids called bufandrine and epibufenicine. These are both serious poisons from a plant related to what is now commonly called tumbleweed. Ancient humans, 60,000 years ago, were not just learning which plants were dangerous. They were deliberately collecting those plants, processing them, and putting the poison on their weapons. They were not trying to avoid poison. They were farming it. Think about what that requires. You have to know that this specific plant is toxic. You have to know it is toxic enough to kill prey, but not so volatile that it kills you in the process. You have to know how to extract the toxic compound and stabilize it so it stays on an arrowhead. And you have to have done this enough times that 5 separate arrowheads at one site all test positive for the same substance. This was not an accident. This was technology. These people had an entire pharmaceutical operation running in a rock shelter 60,000 years before anyone invented writing. You think that sounds impressive? Every time you read the label on a medicine bottle before you take it, you are doing the exact same thing. You are just working from knowledge that someone else encoded. Someone, at some point, had to figure it out from scratch. So how did they actually build that knowledge in the first place? This is the part that scientists find most fascinating. It was not just trial and error, and it was not just taste. It was something far more sophisticated: collective memory. A 2024 paper in PNAS studying Congo Basin hunter-gatherers found that plant knowledge was transmitted through 9 distinct modes of cultural learning. Children learned from parents, yes, but also from grandparents, from hunters who were not family at all, from group observation, and from a form of structured social learning that sounds a lot like what we would call school, except everyone is sitting around a fire and no one is staring at a phone. The knowledge was not stored in anyone's head alone. It was distributed across the group. This is incredibly clever. If one person tries a new plant and gets sick, the group learns without everyone getting sick. The cost of the experiment is shared. The knowledge is collective. And critically, it gets passed down through stories. Do not eat the red berry that grows near the river in the dry season. We know what that does. That story lives in the community for generations. The plant is added to a mental library that grows more accurate with every passing year. This is also why ancient humans could do something that seems almost impossible. They could detox plants that were mildly toxic and make them safe to eat. In 2022, archaeobotanists from the University of Oxford and the University of Edinburgh studied a Neolithic farming settlement at Plocha Michov Grad, near Lake Ohrid, in North Macedonia, dating to around 4500 BCE. They found evidence that people were processing bitter vetch, a plant that is mildly toxic if eaten raw, through a specific soaking and cooking method that neutralized the toxins. They knew the plant was dangerous. They knew how to make it safe. This is not primitive behavior. This is food science. And here is the thought that should stop you mid-bite at dinner tonight. Every food processing technique you consider completely normal is the descendant of one of these ancient experiments. You boil beans because someone, thousands of years ago, discovered that raw beans contain a toxin called phytohemagglutinin that causes severe food poisoning. You do not peel cassava before you cook it in the specific way you cook it, if you have ever eaten cassava, without following steps that ancient people worked out the hard way. The entire global food system sits on top of a mountain of accumulated knowledge about what kills you and what does not, built one experiment at a time over hundreds of thousands of years. You also watch the animals. Deer eat this plant, birds eat these berries, goats eat that one. If multiple species consume something regularly and live, it is probably not going to kill you. Not a perfect system. Some plants are toxic to animals but fine for humans and vice versa. But as one useful piece of a larger puzzle, animal behavior gave real information. Now here is the thing that should make you slightly uncomfortable. All of this knowledge, the bitterness receptors, the collective libraries, the detoxing techniques, the animal observation, was built under conditions of real, irreversible consequences. People died figuring this out. Probably a lot of people, over a very long time. That knowledge was bought at a price that is almost impossible to quantify. And then it was given to you for free, encoded in your biology and in your culture, so that you could stand in a grocery store and pick up a bag of pre-washed spinach without once thinking about the fact that you are the beneficiary of a 200,000-year experiment in not dying. This video discusses anthropological and archaeological research for educational purposes. Modern hunter-gatherer observations are used as comparative models to understand ancient human behavior, not as definitive proof of how all ancient humans lived across different time periods and geographies. So let's come back to where we started. You are standing in front of a plant you have never seen. You are starving. Do you eat it? The honest answer is, you probably already know more than you think. Your body is already running a probability calculation based on smell, color, texture, and taste. Your bitter receptors are primed to fire at the first sign of trouble. You have thousands of years of cultural knowledge in the back of your head telling you what is roughly safe and what is not. You are not starting from zero. You never were. Every single human alive today is the descendant of people who got this right, generation after generation, in conditions far harder than a grocery store. The ones who got it wrong did not make it to the next round. And somehow, remarkably, enough of them got it right to produce 7 billion people who have largely, mercifully forgotten how scary it used to be. Just do not go foraging in the wild without doing your research, because that ancient knowledge needs a refresher every now and then.